as right here. Another are looking for is our risk. This is that color sheet paper. We're looking for the home's insurance because this is one of our biggest expenses in the district that is operational, along with utilities and all those others. But as you can see on this, the 24-25 final premium for this year for risk the insurance is $1,039,86, and they're saying there's a 16.6112% increase for this next year. So our actual cost is $1,202,205. So as you wait for this, we factor that into our budget. Then this big set of documents, it's 32 pages. This is the actual budget in full. This is every single fund that we have budgeted, compiled into its form so that we can report. So if you look at it, it starts with salaries and benefits, and it goes through salaries, and it goes to all different benefits, like your etc. And it does that, and then the expenses, and it does that by fund, and then by function, and then we move on to the next, all different.
Mr. Rice, Secretary to the Budget.
Going back to the pumps and the estimated premium. This is, what kind of insurance is this?
So this
Because it went up like 16%. It went up from $1,030,000 to $1,202,000. So what caused the increase? Why did it increase? Or what is that? What are we paying for there?
So if you look at the detail on the one, it includes your personal, it's your general liability, it's your property taxes, it's vehicles, buses, it's all of those things combined. And so they take it, they combine it. But a lot of the times the increase is usually due to lawsuits that are happening within across the state. So districts as a whole share for all that. So when we go to trainings and stuff like that, they talk about all those, cases where there's been children that have been that have some kind of a lawsuit or whatever. So this is the risk that we're.
But it's also the losses within the Taos Municipal Schools, correct?
Yes, but it's a combination of the state.
But
The state shares everything.
So they spread the
Spread it.
At 60%, that is huge.
Yeah, it's always very, very high. So
Is
that's
it
why.
always
yeah.
high?
That's why we never know what it's gonna be. Sometimes it's projected up to the 30% increase. It all depends on, sometimes I know what happened 2 years ago was, when everybody started handing out the GoWeed and all those things as a weight loss. For anybody that didn't have diabetes and stuff like that, they were saying that that was a big possible, as doctors were just writing prescriptions for all. So
They were prescribing prescriptions for what?
like GoWeed and all those, what are the other ones? Trying to think, the diabetes.
Mounjaro.
That people are using.
Mounjaro.
The Mounjaros, those. Yeah. And so when they did that, and that spiked everything, they were saying that was a big part of why this was, because they weren't using it just for like diabetics, stuff, they were using it for weight loss. And we took the hit because we're paying out the premiums. So I haven't heard anything for this year, what is the driver of this, but I'll look and see if I can find something, but right now it's for it to go up every single year.
If I may, President Bush, for the board as well, these are damages like we had that week. The water damage that happened at a, last this kicked in and paid back all of the money that we had to spend out of pocket. And so they were able to reimburse us, to that season, it was like, just for the, it's just about how to do it, so. Yeah, it should be able to get it back. So it's like your car insurance. Kind of, but for the district.
Well, the homeowners,
Yeah.
you wanna hold the mic a little closer, Tanya, I couldn't hear you.
Yes. Any questions?
No, just a good understanding of, because I see your general liability, your workers' comp again, those are, the vehicles, any accidents and property insurance, you know, they're all connected and, anything that happens within the busing, I guess. All of it are risks for us. Okay, but it's good to assess them to find out exactly. 60% is huge.
Secretary Drew, also down here on the bottom, it identifies
Yeah.
what is paid for workers' comp, liability, property. The property is the largest expense there. Vehicles, buses.
Yeah, well, we do have to pay all our insurance costs. But I was just looking at the difference up here at the very top. You're talking 1.2 and 24-25 was 1,030,000. That's significant. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's important to me,
I know.
figuring and budgeted in our budgets. Thank you. And then back to the expenditure detail with job class, that is, every single one of the budgets in detail. And that's what makes it so, a lot of people don't want to read this, but it gives you the detail. It tells you how much for projecting salaries for like teachers, for special education teachers, for child teachers, etc. And the way this report works is so that you know that it starts off on the left-hand side with the fund, the function, the object, and it gives you a description of what it is. And then the estimated amount is, that is what we're estimating we're gonna spend by the end of this year, June 30th. And the way it calculates it is that it takes the current expenditures and then any income raises and it wraps it up into the street part. Now, what will happen is, if, let's say in salaries, benefits, at the time that I ran the sheet for and uploaded everything, we didn't have all of the salaries, put in, like maybe we're still waiting on stipends and that kind of stuff. It doesn't include it in here. And then also same thing, it includes in all purchase orders, and if we're over, income rate, it brings that in. So I kind of have to wait a little bit and say that we're gonna be short a little bit on salaries, benefits, but it's gonna make up because I try to look at, okay, where are we on the POs, and I look at those to see that some POs that are over written, and so there's gonna be some cash carryover. And the way it works is the way the budget is calculated is, and I'll show you on the next page, is take the revenue, the cash plus the revenue minus your expenditures becomes your next year's cash. You will see that on the next page. But this is for you guys to read in detail when you want to read. But it's everything that we've been doing in the past. It includes salaries, benefits, utilities, any kind of expense that the district has for your leader.
I have a question. Ms. Karen, so what we have here is the preliminary budget. Is it the preliminary? It's a preliminary budget, correct?
Yes, it's what's been submitted. Now we'll just finalize it.
And so then it gets finalized and presented by when, what date is the?
So that's today, and then this afternoon, or this evening in the board meeting, I'll give just a summary of everything.
Okay,
So let's go on to the colored page. That's here, it's a one-page document. It's separate. It is a summary of the operation, which is the fund that you guys are most, interested in, because it runs the majority of the day-to-day. Of course, we have all the other funds, and I'll go over that. I see, and we'll go over that a little bit here, but the operation is where we pay the majority of our staff, utilities, the fixed cost second and stuff, and so. There's over this real quickly, it'll kind of make more sense, because instead of having this. So let's see, it goes to what page? The operational budget in this big packet of 32 pages is actually 10 pages of the, or almost 11 pages of this stuff. But this page here, which is this colored document, is the one-page summary of all those 11 pages. And we're gonna start on the left-hand side on the bottom, where it says the FY 24-25, and just go through that whole thing. So when we start our budget, what we do is we first pay cash, and this is the audited cash that we ended up with after the audit was said and done, and we went ahead and we loaded cash in. Then I go through, we're gonna try and get a best estimate of what I think between now and June 30th we're gonna have in revenue. Sometimes I go a little bit over it because it'll just come back as cash anyways. If my projections are a little bit off, there's no way for me to actually project exactly, because we're still functioning every single day, we're still running. And I just don't have that ability to do it, so I try to make the best guess that I can. I can say that cash is accurate. The 43-101 S&G is accurate, because that's what we'll get by June 30th. And then the 43-120 charge for administrators that we'll get by June 30th. And then 44-204 is for sure, is forest reserve. And then I believe we can already see the 4600 of 28. So those numbers are pretty solid. We've already seen those for sure. The other ones we've already received the majority of them. Just get it to us. And then this is revenue total of 34 million 40 million from the four. Then what I did was I took. So okay. Then what I did was I took the salaries benefits, and they were a total of 20,313,247. And this was as of last week on the 15th. And then the expenditures were covered at that point in time at 6,749,335. I went ahead and left the possible savings from expenses over in convert blank, because I didn't want to go back and reduce some things and then I get off my calculations, because even if I'm off, once we go to the audit, we'll come back and we'll get that cash after that. So we'll do that. Student nutrition, this is the discussion we had just recently on that Saturday week, and student transportation. We're having to pick up right at this moment that dollar amount in order to get us to start at zero for the fiscal year. So when I take all of those numbers, I estimate that our 24-25 cash is going to be 5.8. And that will start cash for a million budget. And then I take estimates on the rest. I went kind of low with this again. It all comes back in as cash once as it continues to come in. I didn't want to over project and then, you know, something not really
So I know for a fact
that the 26 million in SCG is what we got, as we just saw. And then charter school administration, I just increased it slightly because I don't know yet what their applications are. And so we get a portion. from that. So I went ahead and just increased it slightly. So that yellow one is, it's probably gonna change a little bit. And then that gives us 33,141,800 to budget for this next coming school. What we did was we created a framework so that we can take these 11 pages and allocate them by departments and by the types of things that we're spending. And so we're not gonna truly release this piece of paper because this is more of a finance office paper that we work on with this next year to try and fine tune it and make sure that what we gave in these amounts are accurate. Because I don't want to overgive somebody and they say, well, I had gave it for 1,000 or give 700,000, whether they needed it or not. And that's what we have to have those discussions because whatever the balances are in each of these little areas, that's what comes back into cash balance. And our goal is to try and keep cash balance. And so that's what we have to work on in this next year is what are our true fixed costs and then where are we gonna be with cash in the year. The one thing that this will do is once we get it fine-tuned, probably a lot better next year, is that we'll be able to, on that third number down, that 1001 cash reserve, we'll be able to put in there what we want to have as a cash reserve. Then that means nobody else is touching it, it's just sitting there for us to control if it's 10%, 15%, whatever you guys decide that you guys want to aim as the goal for the district. And so what we gotta look at this next year is where are we and how much budget to everybody to determine.
I have a question regarding the cash, the reserve monies. Is there a percentage that is required by the schools, by PED for us to?
No, they've gone all over the place. Sometimes they say 10%, and we said 8%, and we say carry as much as you want, and they go back and forth. The thing with cash reserves is there's been rumors going around, and I don't know how true it is. I found the study of where it's actually looked at. We do this all the time, legislative things in finance committee are sort of. They actually did a study on school districts having so much cash balance. They did it actually last September. And so I think that's where everybody's got this, oh my God, they're gonna sweep our cash or whatever. And so that rumor is going around. How true it is, I don't know. And this comes about every single time that we have a discussion or one of those where you end up with getting a lot of analysts, it's like the ESSERs and all that stuff is going away. The ESSER money comes in, you are forced to set that. And so then you go to a big cash balance and operational funds. But then when all those go away, you gotta absorb all those costs back into operational. And so those numbers are gonna start going away really quickly. So your high cash that is gonna go away. They're aware of it, so I will keep watching to see if there's something coming down the line, but at this point, I think we're okay.
Because usually, the reserve monies are, I come from county, so it was like a 3/12. 3/12 is 3 months out of the 12 months of the year. And that usually would cover payroll for people in case there was a shortfall of any kind of any recurring revenues. So to me, and I believe the town is 1/12. But again, I'm not sure if they require 1/12 or not, but again, to me, it seems that we should really look at and have that money as a reserve. We need to determine what would be best, and that way that can be invested, and because it's something that we're gonna keep to safeguard any shortfalls for the school.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the goal. this, so that we can drive exactly how much we want to.
But then I have another question because again, we have recurring revenues of like 26 million. And that's our biggest, which is the SEG monies. And then there's other reoccurring monies. But it's interesting how to use cash balance. To me, that is, do you use it for recurring costs? Or how is it that you use the cash balance from the year before to offset the costs of the expenditures of the school for that particular year? Because I say that because if you don't count on recurring monies for these costs and you use cash balance, to me, cash balance should be used for special projects or maybe some infrastructure or any kind of assets that are, it's not going to be reoccurring, but that you want to spend that you can spend that money because you're not going to count on it for salaries or anything like that.
Right.
So you're using that 26 million for basically salaries, correct? Because
Pretty much as much as we can, yes. If you look at
salaries and benefits,
on the left side and you look down the bottom. If these expenses hold true the way they are and they don't decrease slightly, I mean, just need them to decrease how much, I don't know, because I just don't know what's really happening. Because we have a lot of ancillary stuff that's covered, I don't know if they're building finally, if they're gonna have to catch up, whatever, so. I'm not sure exactly what's coming, but if you look at this picture right now on that little left hand corner, we're starting out with 7.9 million in cash. And I'm projecting if we spent all of that that's encumbered, we're using about 2 million of our cash right off the bat. So that's when we got to start looking at, what are we doing with, cash, and can we stay within our actual revenues, or are we having to dig into cash? And if so, what is it for and why? So that'll be what this next year is about, is truly looking at where are we in positions and pay and encumbrances and, fixed costs, because if we are continuing to get into cash balance, we will run out.
that's right, correct.
Yeah.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
we have to make sure that we're looking at our recurring monies and what impact it's really having on the school. Because I know that we rely on grants and that those are totally separate from what comes in to run the operations of the schools. So, I guess, thank you.
So that's what the goal of this one page is. This next year, we've got to actively look department by department, what do you really need in fixed costs and how much are we willing to give an additional budget to allow for other things, and determine what's everyone's there, what's the district really needs. So we have to do some really big looks around. So that's the reason for this.
Oh, and one more. And only because we don't know what is coming down.
Yeah, we don't know.
And I believe that we really need to be very cognizant of our expenditures and run on a very tight and fixed budget, maybe a straight line budget or something. And let staff know that, again, is this an as needed basis, because we just don't know. And the salaries of our teachers, our staff, our custodian, everything that runs our school is to me a priority.
So really quickly, the way this works is, I created categories that are tracking. And so payroll and benefits will actually be able to see exactly what we're spending on the benefits. the zero lines. The 1,001 is that cash reserve, like I said, right now, that's a city in there, no budget, unless we have to go in there and say, okay, so these are these a little bit more, we allocate out. The goal is not to have to do that, so that should sit there. Then we've got all different, codes like copiers, at-risk, finance, music, and legal, legal credit. Our instruction materials and purchases, gifted support, library support, board of education, your guys' expenditures, office superintendent's, expenditures. We have instruction in the guards department, state related testing, environments, power school is needed to track all the student data. Finance department, HR department, special services, the ancillary, home county, federal programs, special programs. And those two, they already have their own funding, the federal programs and the special programs, 1620 and 1625. But the way we use those, is if they submit an RFR for reimbursement out of their program. And it turns out that he says it's unallowable. We have to put it back into our budget and operational. So I wanted to track that because we weren't tracking that in the house. And so we didn't know what was needing to go back into our budget. So we're gonna track that this next year so we know exactly what agents aren't being allowed. And then trying to get better so that we don't get a question across these federal grants. So we'll start tracking those. Then we got technology department, transportation department, and services department. And those two are the ones that we're looking at, and we talked about that the district was having to help out with now, but we got some shortfalls. So that's a big chunk of it. Then we got maintenance department, custodial, security, athletics, our school site budgets, and then all the utilities and then fuel. And then we have a little bit in community skills. And then those balances all total up to that 33 million. That's not that we were 70. Questions?
Well, we have additional questions.
I believe it was last year, we were told that I believe it was the food service department was in the negative. And is it, and transportation? And so how are we making that up? Or how is that balanced off in costs?
So what you have to do is, you have to take their actual budgets and really look at what their, so in student nutrition, it's based on revenue earned, generated by students by fee. And so what I had to do is build a budget based on what we actually we're gonna generate in, actual expenses. What that did, in revenues, I think, and then I had to do the expenses, we looked at their budget and looked at what they're spending currently. Based on that, as you look at number 1900, I'm estimating that we have to come with at least or close to 837,000 of that budget. And so that's having to be picked up in our budget. So we've got some major working with those two departments so that we can make sure that we can get them to where they're starting to cover. Same thing with transportation, I mean, the second up to 28,000.
Okay, again, it's I know it's a challenge. But again, I think the only way that you can balance something that is really, really scrutinizing what the expenditures are. And to make up any deficits, because they're gonna reoccur this next fiscal year if they're not really looked at. And work with staff to be able to see where it is that is causing the deficit.
With our expenditures, filtered on the right, is there anything that has?
I can't hear you.
Right, can you identify any of the items where you are expecting an increase for budgeting, what it's gone up substantially?
On the right side.
Yes.
So pretty much, I think this should be enough to cover all of the departments, it should be some accents in all the. The component that we have to deal with and we have to talk to everybody about is. And as we interact and Dr. May's guidance is, what are we needing, not just what we want. And so that's the area that we got to go to. This is hard. You've been given an opportunity, so we need to understand the budget is one thing, but it doesn't mean you have to spend it. But all of them should have enough based on these percentages that we're estimating on this.
Just a moment. Are you, Caroline, you said you?
I just have this one.
I see it.
Oh. So any other questions on this? So the last part is this color sheet with all the different funds. This is a summary of this 32-page by fund, how much is budgeted in each of those funds. So your big question is people transportation. So they have 892,793. I anticipate we're still having to pay up that 200 and some thousand. So they're about $1 million that's necessary at this moment to run their budget. But the goal is how can we get better efficiencies? What can we stop doing to make it better? Start having more kids ride with us, that kind of stuff. So that's what we gotta look at. Same thing with go down to 21,000 food service. That budget runs at about $2 million, but we only generate about 1.1 million. The goal is we've got to get students to start meeting the cafeteria. We've got to start looking at our costs. Are we overspending on food? Are we not? I don't know. We just really look at this stuff. But that's how this budget is. You can see specifically how much is in each of those budgets. And then anything that is missing is picked up within this operational budget. And right now it's only those two, except for in payroll and benefits in the federal funds, because they all took a big cut on most of their programs. We're having to look at picking up a lot of portions of FTEs from some of the people that are staff for them. So I don't have a really good idea of where we're going with this budget until the year gets going. We cover our own salaries, benefits, we start, paying them out, and we just see where are we with what I budgeted. And then we'll do. And so the goal would be to be that thing. So we'll start meeting monthly to go over this and see where are we, what kind of progress are we making, what kinds of things do we need to do to get us to where we.
Ms. Carolyn, another thought, is that you factored in that 3% increase for the teachers. So that's within this budget, correct? Or actually 4%?
Yes.
And was that across the board then?
Yes,
Not
so
just the teachers, the whole entire schools?
yes, so the ruling was at 4% across the board, but there's still a negotiation, so I don't really explain. So what I did in payroll and benefits, just so you know, because I didn't have a way to do projections this year, and that's our goal for next year is setting up payroll so that we can start making projections. Probably like in January, February, right away. We would need to know if we're going to need shifting from place to place. We'll start messing with that at that point. So because I didn't have that capability, what I did was I just put 10% on top of payroll increments that is needed, expenditures. And the benefits, I mean, the payroll piece, and then on benefits, they give 15% across the board. So I just took all those calculations and put it back in, and I figured it should be enough. This is probably like a $3 million increase in total, and I don't look at about, so we know, what negotiations are gonna look like, what that increase is gonna be. But I'm anticipating with the 4%, it's like looking at over $1 billion.
And then my other thought was that, again, if we're looking at 4%, but then the cost of insurance for the employees goes up. What percentage really is, do they stand to gain at the end of the day as the payroll table? That should be our concern also.
Yeah, and we can look at that, I would say, I mean, with 4% of your medical is gonna take down our raise, but you really have to get it out. There's so many ways, people is a hit on the employees, but it's really a bigger hit on the district, you have that tiered schedule. So they do still get a raise, it's just unfortunate that, yes, as people are not as healthy as we would like to see, and we're using our medical, and that's where those premiums are going up, and those kinds of things. That's what happens to the oceans. So this is,
Superintendent, I believe that it would be really important that our employees know this information, you know, and because they do look at the end results. And let's say probably their first paycheck in July, is it July after the budget, after everything is said and done and all the increases are just, you know, the medical insurances and their raises. And to have a good they have a good understanding of what it is that goes on, to be able to calculate the entire salary. I think that they would lean off of that information.
that's all I have, guys. I hope it makes sense, I hope we continue to read and make part of our sense is the really get into the weeds of it and start looking at how it all works or it comes together, but this right here will be what drives how much you have in cash and where we're going, in what direction. So that'll be what you guys will be asked directly. Go for it. Thank you, Carol. Thank you. This one is so, Secretary to part, because you worked at the meeting last week minutes. That, Associate Superintendent Longer said that she thought we should, or she has concern about the impact of the original. I believe, did you say, in Title 6? I was just filling everyone in my question for what you told me the last meeting last week, which was you had a concern with the impact of the agreement. Yes, I spent the experience, just one of our concerns is that you guys is to be the application and that is what it was. Sometimes that is always on the top of the lines, right? For manager roles, sometimes I have worked with it is. That's right, so we have a very huge net, that is the right things. Okay, thanks, I just wanted to really talk about last week. And also, I had asked a question from Ms. Gonzalez. So we all talk about exactly the calculating and something this year. And she said that there would be money in the payroll that she exactly. There's 16,000. I'm sorry. The one that is in Holland, right? She said that would be returning that we want to do that, right?
Yes, well, oops.
Yeah. Yes, what we'll do is, beginning of the year, probably like mid-July, we start with contracts. getting your, your own people, then start talking and getting contracts to all the teachers, everybody else. Once all the contracts are issued, everybody's covered in the system, then we'll see exactly what that should, or give everybody raises, that kind of line. At that point, then we'll look at the list of, wants to meet on the new FTEs, and then we'll start calculating what it costs. 'Cause for every employee, you have to take, about 40% in, benefits. for them. So if you look at $100,000 employee, it really costs, 40 bucks.
That's
So it's very expensive, and so you can use $1 million with 10 people, 90 people, 8 people very quickly. I think I calculated it was about seven employees, 7 teachers. It takes about $1 million.
Right, I just want to bring everyone up to speed about. About
What we talked about last week, this thing, everyone was. And then I had a question for you about Street. Last year, did you do that or did you get back to me? No, that's not good.
Yeah,
That's fine, I just, I didn't know this is a question. Okay, thank you all for your presentation, very, very nice. Thank you very much.
This is very helpful. Yeah.
For finance, administration, item 7 on this. Is even on our. Also, this item 7 of the finance committee, which is adjourned, and we will use this March, so we had 6 minutes on this, more than what we did in the motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a second from Vice President Straight, call the roll.
Yes.
Secretary Trujillo,
Yes.
Vice President Spray. Yes. President Flores.
Yes. So, the following 583, which is our supposed, yes, 16. You're right. Thank you. Yeah, 7.
I wrote on it, I didn't know. Yeah.
It's going up good time. Going this way.
The meeting opens and contested, okay? We think that's possible for you. We can. Start a meeting.
Okay, let me do this one.